Hello, my name is Rebecca Otsistokwiyo Wolf, and I've been teaching at the School of Nursing for 4 years. Otsistokwiyo, if you're curious, is a Mohawk name, and the auburn hair is a gift from my German father. So prior to teaching at the School of Nursing, I taught literacy and education classes at Clemson and SUNY Brockport, as well as teaching reading and writing from all ages, pre-K to high school. So just to give you a little bit of background on my courses and my students. Because of my background in teaching and literacy education, in 2014, the School of Nursing asked me to design and teach a writing course that would fulfill part of a humanities requirement for the RN to BS students. And I said, absolutely, I would love to. And then they told me it needed to be a fully online class. And in all of my years of teaching, I had only taught face-to-face classes because that's the way things had always been done. So at first I panicked. I've never taught online, and now I have to design a 3-credit online class? And then I started to doubt. Well, I think I can design an online class, but it's not going to be good. I mean, how in the world could you translate all of the best practices that I use in the classroom to an online setting? Luckily, my husband was studying online learning at the time, and he said, "You are a good teacher. Just make the class as best as it can be. I'll help you with the technology piece, but you've totally got this." It's so nice to have a supportive spouse, isn't it? So I took up the online course design gauntlet and set about creating NSG 301 with my usual 3-pronged approach. If I could write objectives that were aligned with program outcomes, create authentic assessment to measure student mastery of those outcomes, and design meaningful learning activities help the students get there, I knew I could make this online thing work. I started with the needs assessment and listened to what the program director was wanting for her students. I wrote 5 measurable objectives that aligned with the program learning outcomes for RN students moving forward with a bachelor's degree. I figured out what I wanted them to be able to do by the end of the course, and then I worked backwards from there. So I knew these students in NSG 301 needed to learn how to write an evidence-based research paper in APA style within the healthcare field. I also knew that many of these students had been away from college for several years, if not decades, so I couldn't start with a big, huge, scary assignment like that. So I created 3 other writing assignments that would help them get there by the end of the semester. I was pretty happy with the way these assignments built on each other, and I even found a decent textbook that would give them the basics on how to read critically, how to research, and the basics of argumentation. I broke these larger assignments into weekly tasks and massaged everything to fit into a course schedule for 1 semester. I thought, great, this course is coming together easier than I thought it would. Then I realized that just throwing a textbook and a few assignments at these students wasn't enough. I needed a forum to replace the rich classroom discussion and interaction and connection that I enjoyed in the face-to-face classroom. Except I needed to do it online, without ever seeing them in real life. Panic struck again, and I went back to my husband for some ideas. He introduced me to a friend named Panopto. With Panopto, I created short video lectures to guide my students up this mountain of progressively complex tasks. I was fairly confident that they could all read, so I used my lectures to introduce the concepts that they would be reading about and explain how I wanted them to approach their weekly assignments. Okay, so now I knew I was going to teach my students online with these mini video lectures, but how was I going to create interaction? When I teach face-to-face, I make my students do all of the work. So how does that translate into online teaching? Again, my husband came to the rescue and introduced me to the art of using discussion boards to facilitate group conversations and Blackboard Collaborate to host webinars. Now we use Zoom, but back then it was Blackboard Collaborate. As a teacher, I'm always circulating so I can get a sense of what my students are struggling with. In the online arena, I mixed the discussion boards with the automatically graded quizzes in with assignments that required my direct feedback so I could keep a very close eye on how my students were meeting my expectations and give them encouragement and guidance towards meeting our student learning outcomes. And this gave me the data I needed to track their progress, as well as foster interaction. So after a couple of weeks of hard work, my class was ready for the students. I remember the day my first online class officially opened, and it was so anticlimactic. I wanted to call each of my students just to make sure they were alive and they were able to access everything in Blackboard, but my husband said, no, you don't need to do that. So what I was really wanting was to just be there with my students because I wanted them to need me. I wanted them to need my presence to be successful. But the truth is, real learning happens in the mind of the learner. They didn't need me lecturing at them for 3 hours a week. They just needed a coach to guide them through completing meaningful, real-world activities that would help them learn to think and act like bachelor-prepared nurses. So a few days later, I saw some discussion board posts pop up, and then I got my first batch of assignments. The students were engaging with each other and with the learning activities I created for them, and I was sitting at home on my couch in amazement. It soon dawned on me that teaching online is the best gig ever. I don't have to show up for class. I don't have to prepare any lectures because they're already recorded. And I can work when I'm at my best, which is at 10 o'clock at night. So I was a little nervous that my students wouldn't feel connected to me and that I wouldn't be able to assess how they were doing, but it all worked out beautifully. In fact, I felt like a rock star because people I had never seen before would come up to me and say, "Are you Professor Wolf? Oh my gosh, I am one of your students." It was a great feeling. So some of the lessons that I learned about developing an online class. So you remember my three-pronged approach, the importance of alignment, student learning outcomes, assessment measures, and instructional strategies, very important. Collaboration is key. Talk to your faculty, talk to instructional designers. We have wonderful Blackboard support staff. You are not alone. And just as in face-to-face, clear communication and expectations is really important. This holds true with classroom management or running a discussion board. You need to know what you're willing to accept, what you're not willing to accept, and why, and then be able to tell the students that. So I learned quickly that giving honest feedback was the best way to go. And one of the tricks that I'm going to share with you right now is, so part of being clear about what I expected was I give my students exemplars with my comments in the track changes so that they can see how I respond to a student writing and what I'm really picking out as, oh, this is really good, or oh, you know what, you can take this one step further, and they can start to see my thinking process. Organization and having an easy-to-navigate course is a godsend. I've taken several online courses since then, and it is no fun to guess where to find things or to guess what the teacher wants. So if you keep your modules consistent or use a template like we have here, be sure that your policies are clearly stated in your syllabus and your due dates are all up to date. You'll be doing yourself and your students a huge favor. Scaffolding is a huge part of designing a course well. I kind of use an approach where I always give them a model of what I'm expecting, and then I give them guided practice with feedback, and then I give them their independent practice and assess how they did. So there is a reason for everything that I ask my students to do, and each task builds on their prior knowledge. The other lesson that I learned is the importance of feedback. It needs to be frequent, timely, and constructive. And this needs to be done at each stage because this information is really where the rubber meets the road for the students, and it allows them to learn and grow. And the last thing is just the importance of being present for your students. So just like I was wanting to be there with them, but I couldn't, I had to always keep telling them, I'm only a phone call away or an email away or text me. And I gave students an etiquette guidelines for what I expected. I modeled that respect for them. I always made sure that I had a little video intro for each module just to let them know what was coming up and to make myself present in the class, as well as with my little 5 to 10 minute video lessons. I know some people use virtual office hours or synchronous webinars. Zoom conference sessions are really great for my writing classes. I also do video feedback, so that was really fun. Sometimes my students don't translate what I'm writing to them in their papers as well as I want them to. So I just make a little video and I go through their paper with them and I say, this is what I want you to focus on. And then they say, oh, okay. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful tool. And I'm always available by phone and text. So how did I do creating and teaching my first, well, and then second online class with NUR 401? Here are some student responses about how the course was received. This is a challenging class, but well worth the effort. It is a great way to learn APA and a wonderful start to learning how to properly write research papers and preparing your topic in a classical argument style. The assignments leading up to this prepare you for what I feel is the most important paper, since nursing is about constant research and evidence-based practice. I enjoyed this class and absolutely adored the professor. Wonderful resources are given in this class, and they are keepers for the rest of the program. Okay, that was one. Second person, this course definitely served its purpose and taught me a lot. It was challenging some weeks, juggling a full-time job, school, and children, but overall I would definitely recommend this course. Another person, overall the course was great and well-paced, and I came out feeling like a more confident writer. Thank you. Another student, my interaction with Professor Wolf was always positive, whether it be through email or phone conversation. She is very supportive, and her input really got my creativeness flowing. And my favorite one, I've never had a better professor. Professor Wolf was knowledgeable and able to teach effectively to many different learning styles. She was caring and helpful and extremely fair. This was the best learning experience that I've had with any school. I could read more, but I'll just cry, so I'll just keep on going. So, lessons that I learned from teaching. It's important to stay focused. Just like good writing is driven by a clear thesis, you have to hold a clear vision for your students before you can help them get there. There isn't a lot of room for fluff when you teach online, so everything you say and do has to be for a reason. The other thing is less is more. I personally believe that good education is not about cramming your head full of facts, but learning how to think critically by analyzing information from multiple perspectives and arguing and listening and writing about how you're continually making sense of the world and connecting with the others around you. For example, in my graduate level writing course, NUR 401, that's just a one-credit course, but my students write one 5-page paper, and they tell me that it is as rigorous as a 3-credit class, because I make them engage with real-world problems, do research, and argue to a specific audience for an action that they need to take to solve this problem. I only have 6.5 hours of video lecture in the whole entire class and 2 optional webinars where we do hands-on fixing of problem paragraphs and we practice online line editing. So less is definitely more. And the last thing is just think of yourself more as a coach. As a writing teacher, I feel like a midwife. I'm helping students to give birth to their ideas, new perspectives, new solutions. After all, it's their name on the paper, not mine. Some of my takeaways for you. Don't underestimate the importance of formal training. I have also gotten bitten by the online teaching bug. I'm just finishing up an instructional design certificate at University of Wisconsin at Stout. And I'm sure Eric would love to tell you more about the UR classes and workshops to help you be the best online teacher that you can be. And I think all good teachers are lifelong learners, so invest in yourself. Good teaching is just good teaching. So whether it's online or face-to-face, taking a class in online instruction or working with an instructional designer or taking formal classes will help you translate your successful face-to-face strategies to the online world and maybe even teach you some new ideas. Always stay student-centered. Be available, be empathetic, be supportive. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you don't have an awesome husband like me, it's okay because there's lots of other resources that you can use. I will loan him out for a small fee. Always don't design your online class in a bubble. You need to know how your course fits into the bigger programmatic picture. Get support from the experts in ed tech and online teaching, talk to your colleagues, and use the Quality Matters process. I went through that with both of my courses, and it was very, very helpful to have another set of eyes reviewing my class. And then the last thing is just to reflect and revise. I have a little document that every time I think of something new or a way to improve something, I jot it down. And then at the end of the semester, I go back and I say, okay, this is what I'm going to change for my next iteration of this course. So take the time to reflect on what worked for you and what worked for your students and how you can tighten up your class. And remember, when you teach online, you are only limited by your imagination.